Hey kids, how are you? How was your week? Did you have a good one? I had a really good week. You know, we miss you all so much and cannot wait for Sunday school to start up again, just to see all of you. I know, Richard, you're looking at us from Houston, Texas, aren't you? And we miss seeing you all the time. And all the regulars that are with us every week, we miss you too. You know what? Bring your friends when you start coming back. We'd love to see that. Bring a friend. They need to be here, don't they? And you would enjoy having them with you. Today, I'm going to read you another parable. Now, can you remember from last week what parable meant? Yes, you got it right. It's a story that has a moral or a meaning to it. And I'm going to read you one in the Bible that Jesus told. I want you to remember it. You know, a lot of times we talk about Jesus being the good shepherd. Well, there's a reason for that. And also, I want to tell you something about our church. In the back of where we sit, you know, you're looking at Pastor Pete when he's giving the message. Well, in the very back, there is a big stained glass, and it has Jesus holding a sheep and a little lamb. Now, do you see it? Pastor Pete moved the camera so you could see it. Yes, remember that? I know you've seen that before. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about a lost sheep. And I want you to listen. And as I'm telling this story, I want you to think about what Jesus is trying to say. What is he saying? See if you, and I'm reading from your Bible, the Deep Blue Bible. This is from Luke in the Bible. You know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That starts the New Testament. Remember, we talked about the Old Testament and the New. This is the New. And it is chapter 15. Right off the bat, it starts. Do you remember which book I said? You bet. Good listeners. Luke. Here we go. All the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around Jesus to listen to him. The Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Okay, let me stop for a minute. Tax collectors and sinners. Well, we know what sinners are, don't we? Well, back in the day of Jesus, we knew sinners were people that broke the law and did things that were not right to everyone else's standards. Isn't that right? But tax collectors, they would go around and collect money from all the people. Like maybe they'd come to your house and knock on your parents' door and they'd say, "I want this amount of money, and if you don't give it to me, you're going to jail." And there was never really a set. Sometimes there were tax collectors that were honest, but they got a bad reputation because they would go around and maybe collect some money from some and some different amount from another person. And if your parents didn't pay, they would go to jail. And a lot of parents did. And when they went to jail, there was a good chance they never would come back and you'd never see them again. So they were scary people. A lot of people did not like tax collectors, and none of us like sinners much, do we? Okay, now Pharisees were the people that were in the church at the time, and those are the people that everyone looked up to. They knew all the answers. They knew about the law of the church, and everyone, you know, they were the people that everybody, kind of like Pastor Pete and people like that. All right, the Pharisees and legal experts were grumbling, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So, you know, they were watching Jesus and they thought, "Hey, he's hanging out with these bad people. That's not good, because we don't want to do that. We don't want to be seen with bad people. We want to be seen with good people." But you know, Jesus would just get in there and get right around these people that didn't have good reputations. Jesus told them this parable. Remember, a parable is a story that has a meaning to it. Suppose someone among you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Wouldn't he leave the other 99 in the pasture and search for the lost one until he finds it? And when he finds it, he is thrilled and places it on his shoulders. When he arrives home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Celebrate with me because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who changes both heart and life than over 99 righteous people who have no need to change their hearts and lives. Now, let's talk about what this means. In the story, Jesus goes off after one person that, I guess, when he found that one person, he was able to change that one person and help that one person. This story reminds me a lot of when I went to Ireland several years ago. And we have, in Texas, when you look out the window, when you're driving in the country, what do you see? Cows, isn't that right? Well, in Ireland, you see sheep. And a lot of them. Everywhere you go, there's sheep. And we stopped at one place, and there was a little farm, and the farmer had a sheepdog. And the sheepdog would gather the sheep together, and all the sheep would be together. But every once in a while, one sheep would get a hankering to leave their friends. And they would go off. And the farmer would blow a whistle, and that dog would go after that sheep. And then he would bring that sheep back. Now, the rest of the sheep were doing what they were supposed to do, isn't that right? They knew to stay all together. But that one sheep goes off. And when the dog gets the sheep back, everybody is so happy. The farmer is so happy. The one sheep was brought back. He was glad that all the rest of them were there too. That would have been awful if they'd run off, but they didn't run off. They were doing what they were supposed to do. Isn't that right? So that's one story I thought of. And then another story I thought of was when I taught school. And I think some of you can identify with this. Every once in a while, you might have someone in your class that gets in trouble all the time. Now, I don't want any names. Don't say a word. Don't say the name. But think about it right now. They get in trouble every day. And sometimes they have to go to the principal. And sometimes the teacher gets really angry. Well, I can remember one time I had a student like that in my class. And, every day that child always got in trouble. I don't care what was happening. They'd pick on somebody around them, or they didn't follow the rules in the hall, or, something all the time, every day. Everybody got used to that. Now, everybody else was doing what they were supposed to do. Isn't that right? Well, this one person wasn't. But there was one day that this student did a great job. And you know what? It wasn't this student's turn to be at the head of the line and walk everybody to the cafeteria that day. But you know what? I was so excited that I let him walk to the cafeteria that day in the line, because he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did such a good job. And you know what? I really think, even though everyone in the class was doing exactly what they're supposed to do, I really think everyone understood. And sometimes if this happens in your class and you don't understand, I want you to think about this story and think about what Jesus is trying to do. He is trying to save someone, one person. Even if there are many, many people there, they're all doing what they're supposed to do. He wants to find the one that's lost, and then they become found. Isn't that right? Once you're lost, and now you're found. And that's what Jesus did. He would try to help the people that needed help. Other people didn't need help. They were doing right. Isn't that right? And that's why sometimes he hung around some of those people that were doing wrong. But I want you to do this week at school. I want you to try to help people. Maybe one person this week. Find somebody, and don't tell them that you're trying to help them, but maybe do this. Set a real good example by the way you're supposed to do. Do the right thing around them. And you know what? That's the best thing you can do. Try to be their friend. There's some reason why they're not following directions. When they were born, you were all tiny babies and everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do. Something happened between then and now. And so what you want to do is be a good example and maybe help them so that they will not be lost, okay? Now, I want you to have a great week. I want you to be a good friend to someone at school, and I want you to remember this parable and remember why Jesus told us this story. And I told you 2 stories, and think about those because those are a lot like the parable. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.